Do I have to do that again?
So welcome to the next episode of Field Service in Focus. And today I'm going to be joined by Gyner Ozgul of Smart Care Equipment Solutions. He's the President and Chief Operating Officer at Smart Care. Now, I've met Gyner a couple of times before and really been impressed by his kind of experience in the field service sector and his perspective. And obviously the topic of these few episodes is the evolving role of the field worker. Gyner's got a lot of experience managing field workers and developing aspects of them. So I really wanted to get his experience and perspective on this topic today. So welcome, Gyner, and thanks for joining us today. Could you give a bit of an introduction to yourself, your background, and your role at Smart Care?
Sure. Gyner Ozgul, I'm currently the President and Chief Operating Officer of Smart Care Equipment Solutions. We are the US's largest provider of commercial kitchen repair. So if you think of restaurants, hospitals, stadiums, anywhere you would get something to eat that is not your home, we are the provider of the repairs and maintenance of those types of kitchen environments. I have been at Smart Care for over 20 years. I started as a service manager in Chicago, overseeing 12 technicians at the time. Currently, Smart Care is a provider of service, and we have over 1,200 technicians nationwide, all our own team members, and we're really proud of that. We don't do a lot of subcontracting work. It's all our own team members and our culture that we're trying to build. My role specifically focuses on a number of key areas. So the field operations team, which includes the management as well as the technicians themselves, our supply chain, which is the sourcing of the parts and the technical information for the technicians as it pertains to those repairs, and the key manufacturer relationships within that supply chain. Safety, which is just most important for me. I have a mantra of get every technician home safely every evening, as well as IT and technology. So the technology team within Smart Care also reports into myself. So things that, which is pertinent to our conversation today.
Yeah.
Really, those first two, that first group of operations and field and the last group of technology and how they're starting to intersect. I think we're on the leading edge of that. And part of the reason we bridged operations and technology a number of years back was because of this conversation we're going to have.
So, Gyner, so one of the reasons we wanted to have this chat was obviously we picked up on a social post that you'd made about a leather-bound field service manual, I think from about 20 years ago. Do you want to tell us the story and give us a bit of background on that?
Yeah, for sure. So a number of years back, maybe 15 years ago, I was a regional service manager for the Midwest within the US. And I interacted with a number of technicians at the time, probably around 150, 200 technicians at that time. One of the technicians, Rick, and his brother, who is now retired, were working for me in the Detroit market. And, I was on a call. I do monthly calls with all of my technicians' town halls. No managers are invited. It's myself and the technicians. It's something I have a lot of passion around so that I can hear their voice and really let them have access to myself. And we were talking about history in the service industry and how it's evolved. It just became a natural conversation in the town hall. And, as an output of that, he sent me this book just out of the blue. And he said, hey, as an output of the conversation, I really enjoyed it. I thought you'd like this book for historical purposes. And it was a leather-bound manual of how they used to fix equipment when he started over 40 years ago. And
over 40 years ago, and it was still working.
If you look at it, it's very well put together. It can tell you how when there was no technology, what they needed to train and adopt technicians into the industry. It was very heartfelt. And he signed it too. So, for me, it's really important. It stays here in my home office. It's something I will cherish because I know there was a lot of thought and energy put into sending it to me, and I'll carry that forward.
Yeah, and I guess it raises that thing when I saw the picture of it, and we can add it in when we do the edit, but how things don't change. Like nowadays, everything's specific to different equipment because it's
Yeah.
technology, and technology changes so quickly that how to fix it is going to change so quickly. So yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I'm just flipping through the book myself and
Yeah,
looking at some of the diagnostics in the book are still applicable today. As complicated as it is, the
yeah,
fundamentals of how to diagnose a piece of equipment are still applicable, 40 years later.
yeah,
So
yeah. Wow.
really, really heartfelt, very
Yeah,
important to me.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
something I will cherish probably for the rest of my career.
And I guess it raises and when we saw that, kind of our feeling was, wow, how much has it evolved since then? So
Yeah.
obviously you gave that to your technicians 40 years ago. How are they working today, and how would you summarize how their role has changed, how the way you enable them has changed?
Yeah, I mean, if you start with the work order itself, the work order has become digital, right? So there is
Okay.
a workflow that we have built into the mobile work order solution that walks them through the diagnostics and the information needed up front, and what they diagnose, how they repair, how they order parts. All of that is more a digital workflow tool versus a work order.
Yeah.
Whereas, just starting here 20 years ago myself, used to be triplicate copies of work orders, right? A white, a yellow, and a pink. And they would write, and, the customer would get a copy, our billing team would get a copy, and one copy would come to me, right? So we
Sure.
went from paper to all digital workflows in the last, 20 years or so. And then
Yeah,
that work order, and then the training has also become mostly digital, even in classroom environments. They're doing a lot of digital training, a lot of digital manuals, a lot of PDFs, and some of the PDFs are all digital now, and some of the PDFs are evolving to more a knowledge-based kind of workflow tool for diagnostics, even
yeah,
from our manufacturers and in the industry. So,
yeah.
work orders digital, training is transitioning to digital. So just the last 20 years alone have been pretty substantial movement versus, that leather-bound manual of
But
40
no.
years ago.
They're looking at. And do you think that's changed, I guess, the knowledge of the workers, the way they work, the type of workers that you have?
Yeah, I think the culture of that is in transition, right? So your
Right.
tenured technicians that are like Rick and Ray
Yeah, yeah.
from manual are still in that, they really have a lot of passion around what they've learned and the experiences they've built. And I always
Sure.
use the analogy of, they have a little notepad in their pocket that they can take out, and it's got all their knowledge from the last 40 years, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
today, our newer technicians really rely on the knowledge-based technology tools and training tools we can relay to them, and using that for diagnostic and part support and technical support. So I think we're in
Yeah,
transition.
yeah, yeah.
I do believe
But
the next 10 years we'll see more of the transition
then,
into digital and really knowledge-based AI tools to help them with diagnostics and repairs.
sure. But I suppose a lot of that knowledge from Ray or whatever is in the knowledge base now. It's capturing a
Yes.
lot of that from those experienced technicians and getting it into the knowledge base.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they've got that experience. So, Gyner, when we spoke earlier, you talked about the fact that all the technicians are actually part of the smart care workforce, and they're all
Yep.
employed rather than using subcontractors.
Yep.
What is that, and why is that so important to you?
It all begins and ends with our end customer, right? And their expectations are evolving, not only of service and technology, right? Both those
Sure.
areas. And for us to really control the outputs of the service experience to our customer, we feel it's best that those team members are part of our team, right? We train
Yeah,
them the way our customers expect. We deliver service from an expectation and SLAs that our customer expect. And we really deliver a value proposition that's built kind of bottoms up from our customers' experiences and expectations, right? What are the customer needs, and how do
yeah,
we filter that back to our technicians, right? The
yeah,
second piece of that is obviously the technology piece, which we're talking about today as well. That is fed by our customers' need. And I'd say it started probably 10, 15 years ago with consumerism, right? This whole
Okay.
idea of Amazon and eBay and, expectations evolve because all of us as individual consumers have built an expectation of communication and SLA expectations and delivery of service that has
Yeah, yeah.
evolved because of the consumer impact on each one of us individually. So things like tracking numbers and SLA communication, all of that is no different than us looking at our Amazon app and wondering where our package is, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
that
That,
evolution in consumerism has impacted our industry and essentially forced the industry to accelerate on technology and delivering on our end customer expectations and
totally.
experience.
So obviously you talked about your workforce of 1,200 technicians. That's a big
Yeah.
workforce. Obviously you've got churn, and you're probably growing that. How do you find, how easy is it to recruit the right kind of skills, the right kind of technicians at the moment in your market?
Very difficult. I'll lead with it's difficult. It's a challenging, very competitive environment for skilled labor in the
Yeah.
US. So, in our technicians' skills and competencies are very fungible, right? So they can be a technician for us working on kitchen repair. They can work in the HVAC industry. They can work as a hotel site engineer. The competencies that they have are very are transferable and fungible. So
Okay.
that makes it difficult and very competitive for us to attract talent. What we focus on is like two areas, maybe three. The first one is how do we develop the culture within Smart Care to show them the path of growth of our organization and for the technician. So
Yeah.
for our organization, it's a little more straightforward. We have grown threefold in the last 7 years as an organization, so we can show them that path.
Okay.
Their individual growth, we say to them, hey, you have a number of paths you can grow into. You can grow from a apprentice level technician all the way up to a district field trainer for us in the technician realm. You
Yeah.
can branch off into field operations and management. You can also branch off into bringing a trainer, a classroom trainer within our business, and or finally they can go into district field sales, depending on their comfort level in that area. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
starting to show them the opportunities an organization our side offers them that differentiates them from just a career of a site engineer.
Yeah.
And then last for us is as we bring on new technicians, the onboarding experience, we're spending a lot of time to improve that onboarding experience, to show
Sure.
them and give them the best foot forward within the organization within their first, let's just say 90 days of employment. That's really important for our technicians.
So if you had to look at your kind of ideal candidate for a technician role, what kind of skills and qualities would you be looking for? And how much sort of technical competency skills do they need to have?
This is a little bit of a preference, so it's qualitative,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Qualitative assessment for me is a technician that has come out of some level of trade school.
Yeah.
I don't need them to have any practical field experience, but the
Sure.
trade school establishes a foundational need for the competency of diagnostics. So
Yeah.
understanding how to use a gas meter, understand a manometer, sorry, how to use a voltmeter on the electrical side, the fundamentals that are necessary to understand the science behind the diagnostic skill. If that
Yeah.
exists out of a trade school, and by the way, trade school could be your typical HVAC trade school, but we've had a lot of success in automotive trades. We've also had a lot of success in hiring out of the military. Those competencies, those base competencies come from a number of areas.
Yeah.
If you have those base competencies, we feel very confident that our current training programs and technology stack
Yeah.
can help
Can.
train them and support them in the future on delivering service to our customers.
And do you think that's changed over those sort of 15
Yeah,
years that you've been operating? Yeah. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
because you've got the technology and the
Well,
to train
absolutely.
them quickly.
The
Yeah.
technology is yes, but originally I would say we were no different than other providers that would look for those magical
Yeah.
experience techs already.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 or more years of experience in the field, HVAC or kitchen repair. But that workforce, especially with COVID the last 3 years, has shrunk, right?
Yeah.
So we really need to use technology and be a little more creative on attracting talent into this industry.
So just looking back, when I talked to similar organizations during COVID, during the lockdown, they moved to quite a remote model of support where potentially they'd had some of their more experienced technicians potentially working remotely, providing support to technicians who went out or to customers who were resolving things for themselves. Is it similar for you, and have you started to adopt a more kind of hybrid or remote way of working?
Hybrid, yes. We were maybe a little leading edge before COVID. We created career path for our technicians, ones that essentially were later in their careers and they no longer could do the physical aspects of the work.
Yeah.
So what we did is we created remote help. We're actually we're in the process of actually onboarding IFS Assist, coincidentally, for that use case. But essentially, we're ahead of that. We've continued to build out that team to help our technicians remotely from their diagnostic skills. There is a path there for customers in the future. We're not quite there yet. And I think, leveraging technology like Assist as an example, and there are others, this isn't an IFS thing. It's just we're partners together. So obviously we look at that, but leveraging a technology tool like that will really help us in the future, bring that forward potentially to customers as well.
So one of the other things I was going to ask you, and this was raised with me at a discussion we had on the skills shortage a couple of months ago. So one of the participants in that discussion actually said, but we're talking here about the skills shortage and the difficulty in recruiting, but we're ignoring 50% of the population. So, I guess, do you have many female recruits into technical roles, and are you doing anything to, I guess, encourage more women into the roles of technicians?
Do we have many? No, not as much as I would like, or my leadership team would like, being more clear. Do we have more than we did 20 years ago when I started? Yes. So I'm positive signs of improvement there. I think our challenges is the workforce is very male dominated. And really, we need to do a better job of positioning that work and the value of that work across that population. So the answer is, it's a work in progress. I mean, I don't think we're very different than everyone else. What I will say is we do spend time to make sure that if there are candidates in the pool, we pull them through to really bring them forward and really challenge ourselves in terms of trying to help with that diversity piece within Smart Care. That's really important to us.
It's going to take time for everything to change, but it's interesting to see what different.
But we have a number of success stories in that area, and for those technicians, if they end up watching this that are Smart Care technicians, they've done a fantastic job, and they're going to be our foundation for our future in that area.
So we've talked a lot about where we are today and the evolution over the last 20 years, but looking forward, Gyner, how do you think the role of the worker is going to change? How is technology going to impact that?
So to me, we've talked a little bit about workflow and training. So, those are check boxes. I think those will continue to evolve for our technician and our workforce, especially as the customer need changes with technology influencing our end customers and their need. What I will say is there's a couple of buckets where that will evolve further, right? So as we think about, the blinking word of AI nowadays, I think AI and knowledge-based tools will help bridge our talent gap, right? So essentially we have a need for more talent, but we also have a need to bridge and bring them up to competency speed faster in the organization because of the talent gap. I think the AI tools will help us get there faster, right? So they'll help train our technicians, help them with their diagnostic on site skills. What I will say is there's a caveat there. I don't think we're going to replace technicians with AI in terms of repairing a fryer in a kitchen. I could be wrong in that prediction, but we'll look at this 10 years from now, and I'm sure I won't be. The second piece is I think customers will lean in a lot on prescriptive repair versus reactive repair. So today, they call and say something's broken, please come fix it, or we do planned maintenance. I think what they'll be looking for is tools, leveraging AI and knowledge-based tools to help us predict repairs, right? So we can come out 4 times a year and maybe prevent a repair and prevent their downtime using our data to feed AI modeling and machine learning modeling to help us with prescriptive repair.
Yes.
And I think finally, just the tools will help with efficiency, right? As the workforce shrinks, it'll help us get more optimized routes, close more calls a day, visit more customers a day. Those tools will help us do that so we can optimize the skills the technicians that we have as that workforce continues to have some pressure on it.
And I guess that comes in with the second point as well. If you've got the intelligence and the understanding that you can be more prescriptive about those tasks, you can be more efficient as well once you've got that data, because you will have that. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Gyner. It's been fantastic talking to you again, and good to see you again.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm humbled. When I do these interviews, I'm very humbled. As a person who started as a food service worker and now is a president of a company our size, I'm very humbled to be able to do these interviews. And to my team members, I thank you for all the experiences the last 20 years, because I wouldn't be able to sit here and have a conversation like this without the experiences that my team has provided.
Great. Thank you for your insight.
No problem.